Thank you, Mweke. Your Excellencies, good luck, Jonathan, former President of the Republic of Nigeria. Dr. Amina Goab Fakmi, former President of Mauritania. Bovigui, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea. Your Excellency, former Prime Minister of Niger and African Union Special Envoy for Food Systems. Your Excellency, Dr. Hawa Bangura of the United Nations Office in Nairobi, and the guards who moved to the north. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor and privilege to represent His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, during this opening ceremony of the inaugural consultative group, National Agricultural Research Science Week 2025. He himself is, in fact, the first scientist president that Kenya has had, and he would have really liked to be here. So let me pretend to be a scientist for a minute. Proud to host this lunch focusing on innovation and partnerships for food, nutrition, and climate. Together the own minds, cultural research, innovation, and policy. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya to welcome you all to Nairobi, especially those who are from across Karibuni, Kenya. Enjoy the alluring beauty and hospitality of our country, the humanity, and a hub of innovation in agri-food systems. It is also befitting Cgiar, Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, CALO, and the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, and all owners who have organized this distinguished forum. The theme of this year's assembly is timely, considering the unprecedented environmental and food security that the world faces today. The only way forward is through science-driven solutions and multi-stakeholder partnerships. Agriculture is the backbone of Africa, providing employment to over 60% of our population, significantly contributing to national output and ensuring food security for millions of people. The sector faces immense challenges from climate change and extreme weather conditions, land, soil infertility, food insecurity and malnutrition, post-harvest losses, and limited access to technology, and investment. This Science Week opportunity to now to challenges is a call to research private sector and chart a new path to enable agriculture and resilient food systems and countries. Kenya is proud to host this global forum. Our collaboration with Cgiar dates back 5 decades. Beginning in the early 1990s, Kenya hosts staff from several IAs, Livestock Institute, Biodiversity International, Research Institute for Tropical Water Institute, National Rights State Center, National Maize Improvement Center, topics, forestry, partnership institutions, national governments, cities, the groundbreaking such scenes, drought, variety, stock breed, smart advice, policies, transfer the farming, transfer sector, index-based that help such capacity have been world such at the scientists have enhanced the agricultural and in economic transfer agri-food of economy. Believe in this sector will drive poverty and creation, improved life and safety, gender equality and inclusion, and climate change adaptation and environmental sustainability. Kenya's agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy and the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project are just two examples of initiatives aligned with Vision 20 and the United Sustainable Development, ensuring that the task ahead between governments policymakers, private development use the collaboration Hillary and its partners are pioneering research in climate adaptation, greenhouse gas emissions reduction, livestock, wildlife interactions, and ecosystem restoration. Ladies and gentlemen, as you engage in meaningful discussions this week, I encourage you to also explore the beauty of Kenya with its exceptional diversity. Nairobi is the only capital city with a national park, home to lions, rhinos, and giraffes, just a short drive from your hotel. The Masai Mara and Musalia and Tsavo national parks offer breathtaking landscapes and majestic African wildlife. The pristine beaches of Mombasa, Diani, and Lamu provide a perfect retreat for those who are not afraid of water. Adventurers can embark on a hike up mountain Kenya for an unforgettable experience. Let me now conclude by encouraging you to be bold in your ideas, strategic in your partnerships, and ambitious in your actions. You have a great opportunity during this gathering to make decisions that will contribute to Africa's food security. Your insightful discussions, fruitful collaborations, and transformative solutions will help shape the future of food security in Kenya, Africa, and the world at large. Ladies and gentlemen, before I walk off the podium, let me truly acknowledge the erstwhile leadership of Dr. Bangura. She has been a very dedicated leader for the UN family in the Global South, and we really appreciate that. We want to salute you and to say that other than what she has indicated, we are also having some conversation with the UN so that over and above what is in existence, we can also have a humanitarian and logistics hub here in Kenya, linked to Mombasa and to Naivasha to serve the region. We pray and hope and trust that someday that will also come to pass. Thank you.
Food shortage and food crisis in human history. We have still 800 million people that are hungry. We have still 350 million people that are starving. And I want you to look at pictures like these. And really when I look at them myself, I feel depressed. I feel helpless. Like this. So I think disaster after disaster after disaster, we are sinking down. We are not coming out of this situation of malnutrition and hunger. Last year, in the last few years, we have seen a global pandemic that has ravaged the world. We have seen emerging conflict in so many parts of the world. We have seen also climate change that is accelerating and showing us how bad it is in different parts of the world. And this is bad for all of us. But imagine how bad it is for a woman that doesn't have food for her kids. So definitely the impact is much worse for those communities that are vulnerable. So I really hope that as we are looking to those pictures, we are all striving to stop it and stop it now, and particularly stop malnutrition. And that's where the science comes. Science is the hope. Science is part of the solution. And science, technology, and innovation with a broad innovation spectrum. It's not only technological innovation. It's policy innovation. Innovation, it's institutional innovation, it's societal innovation. This is the solution, and that's what Cgiar, that's why Cgiar exists and continue to thrive. Cgiar was created about 5 decades ago. And it was created to provide small-scale producers in the Global South with technologies and solutions. And you'd ask yourself, why small-scale producers and why in the Global South? Because they are the most vulnerable to all the crises I mentioned before. Because they didn't get enough support so far. And yet, they are producing 85% of the food we have today. So basically, if I make it in a lame language, the small-scale producers in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, have kept the planet alive. And that's where Cgiar has grown over years. So our mandate have changed from a commodity on agroecology to a system. We have come together with partners to bring solutions, and we have been always working with national systems. I want to take the example of our work with Kenya, for example. And as you see here, our work, the Science Week, is co-hosted by Calgro. We are working with Calgro hand in hand, and we welcome His Excellency the Minister. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are working with Calgro hand in hand, complementing each other and not duplicating. And you're going to see over the week a lot of examples of how we are working in Nigeria with the national system. Thank you very much, President Goodluck, for being with us here. We have examples from Guinea. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Biavogi, for being with us. We don't work in Mauritius, but we work in other small islands, Timor-Leste, for example, and thank you for being with us, Your Excellency Amina Gurib. And much more. Thank you very much, Mayaki, Your Excellency Mayaki, for being with us, and we do work in Niger, and we are very happy to do so. But we have examples from India to Tanzania to Peru to many, many countries, and I want you really to listen and take part of the discussion as we are bringing those solutions to you. So what have changed since we started working? And before I move to that, the work with the national system gives Cgiar relevance. It gives us context fit. It makes sure that what we are doing is for the countries, implemented with the countries, and that's very important, and that's one of the reasons of our success. We have seen a big shift. I think the shift happened mostly with the United Nations Food System Summit in 2021. And the shift is that there is a recognition for the importance of the agri-food system, the importance of the food, land, and water system. It got compounded, and we are very thankful to United Arab Emirates that got it in food and it brought agriculture. So finally, in the global agenda, as people are affected by climate change systems, but most of the time, the very negative. They tell us that and that we are using is that we could be more and oceans can do more towards us. We could be we could bring those, and we can do only by work. That's where part is very important. But exists without partnership, evidence combine, as I said, innovation on technology, on institutions. And it has also on the very important. We could solution setting working with you. Right, is that science have seen a leapfrog really in terms of development. Look at AI. Only 5 years ago, or quantum computing. 5 years ago, we couldn't do what we do today. Look at nanotechnology. They have all about use of malnutrition. I go back to children. I think any I'm optimistic. I want to for action to all of you. And I want to really talk to you. If you are a funder in the room, and I see many of you here, please fight supporting our mandate. If you are a partner, keep working with us, because without you we can't make it. If you are a farmer, please engage with us. I didn't talk enough about the knowledge, the local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, but farmers are very important. We rely on you as farmers. And
that uplift our farmers and communities. This Science Week comes at a time affecting food insecurity, shrinking natural resources, and demand for sustainable livelihoods. We believe that solutions lie in research, collaboration, and collective action. It is therefore encouraging to see the convergence of such formidable expertise under one roof, sharing knowledge, generating ideas, and forging partnerships that will shape the future of agriculture. As we deliver over the coming days, let us be inspired not only by science and data, but by the lived experiences of the smallholder farmers who depend on these innovations. Let our discussions be driven by inclusivity and urgency. And now, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome our chief guest, His Excellency Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, indeed a distinguished and champion of sustainable development, to officially address and open the Cgiar Science Week 2025. Karibu sana, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Mweke. Your Excellencies, Goodluck Jonathan, former President of the Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Amina Goab Fakmi, former President of Mauritania, Bovigui, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea, Your Excellency, former Prime Minister of Niger and African Union Special Envoy for Food Systems, Your Excellency Dr. Abhawa Bangura of the United Nations Office in Nairobi, and the Gulf who moved to the north, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor and privilege to represent His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, during this opening ceremony of the inaugural consultative group, National Agricultural Research Science Week 2025. He himself is, in fact, the first scientist president that Kenya has had, and he would have really liked to be here. So let me pretend to be a scientist for a minute. Proud to host this lunch focusing on innovation and partnerships for food, nutrition, and climate. Piece together the own minds, cultural research, innovation, and policy. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya to welcome you all to Nairobi, especially those who are from across Karibuni, Kenya. Enjoy the alluring beauty and hospitality of our country, the humanity, and a hub of innovation in agri-food systems. It is also befitting Cgiar, Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, CALO, and the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, and all owners who have organized this distinguished forum. The theme of this year's assembly is timely, considering the unprecedented environmental and food security that the world faces today. The only way forward is through science-driven solutions and multi-stakeholder partnerships. Agriculture is the backbone of Africa, providing employment to over 60% of our population, significantly contributing to national output and ensuring food security for millions of people. The sector faces immense challenges from climate change and extreme weather conditions, land, soil infertility, food insecurity and malnutrition, post-harvest losses, and limited access to technology, and investment. This Science Week opportunity to now to challenges is a call governments, research, private sector, and at a new path, sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems and countries. Kenya is proud to host this global forum. Our collaboration with Cgiar dates back 5 decades. Beginning in the early 1990s, Kenya hosts staff from several IAS, Livestock Institute, Biodiversity International, Research Institute for Tropical Water Institute, National Rights State Center, National Maize Improvement Center, topics, forestry, partnership institutions, national governments, cities, the groundbreaking such scenes, drought, variety, stock breeds, smart advice, policies, transform the farming, transform sector, index-based that help such capacity have been world such at the scientists have enhanced the agricultural and in economic transfer agri-food of economy. Believe in this sector will drive poverty and creation, improved life and safety, gender equality and inclusion, and climate change adaptation and environmental sustainability. Kenya's agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy and the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project are just two examples of initiatives aligned with Vision 20 and the United Sustainable Development, ensuring that the task ahead between government policymakers, private development use the collaboration Hillary and its partners are pioneering research in climate adaptation, greenhouse gas emissions reduction, livestock, wildlife interactions, and ecosystem restoration. Ladies and gentlemen, as you engage in meaningful discussions this week, I encourage you to also explore the beauty of Kenya with its exceptional diversity. Nairobi is the only capital city with a national park, home to lions, rhinos, and giraffes, just a short drive from your hotel. The Masai Mara and Musalia and Tsavo national parks offer breathtaking landscapes and majestic African wildlife. The pristine beaches of Mombasa, Diani, and Lamu provide a perfect retreat for those who are not afraid of water. Adventurers can embark on a hike up mountain Kenya for an unforgettable experience. Let me now conclude by encouraging you to be bold in your ideas, strategic in your partnerships, and ambitious in your actions. You have a great opportunity during this gathering to make decisions that will contribute to Africa's food security. Your insightful discussions, fruitful collaborations, and transformative solutions will help shape the future of food security in Kenya, Africa, and the world at large. Ladies and gentlemen, before I walk off the podium, let me truly acknowledge the erstwhile leadership of Dr. Bangura. She has been a very dedicated leader for the UN family in the Global South, and we really appreciate that. We want to salute you and to say that other than what she has indicated, we are also having some conversation with the UN so that over and above what is in existence, we can also have a humanitarian and logistics hub here in Kenya, linked to Mombasa and to Naivasha to serve the region. We pray and hope and trust that someday that will also come to pass. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. No, Prime Cabinet Secretary was talking about the only capital on the planet with a national park in it. He can also recommend a couple of watering holes if you guys are interested later on.
Of the panel today. I'm also going to link up to what Ismahania said earlier on. I'm also a girl from the South who got educated in the North, but who thrived and stayed in the South. So I am very happy on that score. Now, you've spoken about the challenges. I will start this conversation with a small anecdote, a small story. Once I was in the United States, and there were some policymakers in the room, and we're talking about brain drain. Brain drain from the United States this time to the Global South. And this American policymaker was saying, you know, we have no problems with Africans. They will never leave the United States. We had some issues with Indians who managed to get the conditions right and they stayed. But we are having problems with the Chinese. They're going and they're not coming back, and they don't want to come back. So what we have to tease out in terms of lesson from this is that what has China done in terms of building ecosystems that Africa is not doing still? That's the main challenge. And I think, as you say, madam, is that when you have leaders who are scientists at the helm, they can see through this. They want to build the ecosystem which will need to attract our fellow talented Africans back to African soil. And when you have leaders who are scientists, they can also look at the quality of education being imparted to our children. Is that education fit for purpose? The education I got as a child is no longer relevant for my daughter. It will certainly be irrelevant for my grandchild one day. Rote learning is out. Learning by discovering, learning by doing is on, especially in the advent of AI, where we need all the talents on board, all the data, and also regulation to some extent, but I'm not quite happy with the regulation because by the time we regulate, the technology has moved on so fast that we'll not be able to do it. The second challenge, Madam Chair, is that when we look at the issues for African agriculture, I'm sorry, there are many centers across the world here, but as I stand on African soil and being an African, I will try to drive it through an African lens. Where are the women in Africa in agriculture? What I'm going to say next is not a political statement, it's a where are the for our African girls and women? Access land, we have to control. Food is produced mostly by small, and many of them are women. The challenges across Africa, we really have to look at it. The point I want is how do we bring our youth to agriculture? Because the still prevails in terms of agriculture is still the such a sector in dollars. Speak to the people to make them entrepreneurs. We need to change that narrative. We need to make them become entrepreneurs within Africa, within the continent, through the tools of science to provide solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. So taking a cue from we need political solutions and more scientists on the ground, China, 100% score. India, 100 or 85. Africa, 0. Can we get more going back to the continent? Can we have an can we have empowerment? And can we have youth as drivers of the food systems, research, development, and innovation that we aspire to drive as CGIR? Thank you very much for those. Let me go now to His Excellency Mohamed Biavogu. You've been big in terms of supporting science. We've had grasping now to leapfrog well, but more specific your own concern. But we are speaking from a perspective. Africa is the continent that's been left behind. That's why this panel of the wise is a section of you Africans. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Lindiwe. First of all, let me thank our host, the government of Kenya, for the fantastic hospitality we have benefited from here. To thanking you, the CGIR, for inviting me in this meeting. Yes, the bad news is that we still have challenges. And as Mayaki said now, we don't respond to the needs of our people in terms of food, enough food, and nutritious food. Yes, our lands are degrading very fast, and the response is not adequate. To date, we are still using approximately 20 kilograms of fertilizer per hectare, when others are using more than 137 kilograms per hectare. Yes, climate change is giving us erratic rains, it's giving us droughts, giving us floods, and we don't have, on the ground at least, the right responses. And then our farmers' lack of access to finance, access to technology, etc. And moreover, those who are really doing the agriculture on the ground, women, they are excluded. And youths are being told the hole is still there and they don't want it. So they leave. That's the bad news. But luckily there is a good news, very good news, which is much better. There is a lot of innovation all over. I had 40 years of my life in supporting the agricultural sector, particularly in Africa. And I see the difference. My first time in Kenya was in 1983. And I can see the difference. Today, you see technology. To technology, people have access to the market. You see infrastructure. You have roads. Most Africans are very far from an accessible road to the market. But you can see the difference in Kenya, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in many countries. The number of those closer to the market are increasing. We are seeing new policies in terms of financial inclusion. We are seeing targeted financing for women. We are seeing digitalization through drones, etc., etc. And so innovation is happening. New seeds, new technologies are on the shelves. The fundamental issue today is how to move from the lab to the ground, to the land, as they say, and how to move from the land to the plate. And here, it is a matter of policy. It is a matter for our leaders to be more bolder, more practical, and more inclusive. So the farmers are courageous. They are doing it. They are trying. The researchers are bringing us a lot of technology. Innovation is going from everywhere. The young people are creating platforms. A lot of these technologies are homegrown here. So the next step to our is let's meet the strength of the farmers.
Thank you very much. Quotable quote is LLP. From the lab to the land to the plate. That's a systems approach. That's why we're in the business of food systems transformation. As Cgiar, we aim to transform the food system and the system. Create new development. Jonathan. Some of the innovation there. Why are we failing to be climate smart? Why are we not preserving our biodiversity? The list is long. What is happening? Over to you.
Together. That discuss
human means who say concept way he taught was said as at that time of science will do in food production, which is true. The area of the world is still the same, the area of the same, the water body is in the carrying capacity. In fact, the water is less. Food meat production must science and technology. So no doubt about that. I believe actually that we must elect presidents that have science or background. I have a background in science. I have a doctorate in hydrobiology. Water bodies, wetlands, ponds, lakes, and estuaries. So I have a little in terms of science. But I don't believe that we have to elect presidents that are before we can do what is. I think I see we do from the little I know, probably in Africa, is that our leaders spend more time thinking about how to lead, how not how to lead, so how to or hold on to leadership than thinking about the people. Because more time thinking about how will I stay here, take over the chair, you have little time, people. If you think about it, you must think of not whether you background or you have in your country experts in all these areas that can help you. In terms of for the 5 years of Nigeria, we did very well, I can say that. Because as one of the best in the country, the present ADB president, Dr. Adeshino, who is the current president, I picked him as my agric minister. And I took over in 2010, but I brought him in 2010 and won the election. For example, at the beginning of the budget year, the first agric minister will bring to a farm to buy fertilizer. Because the fertilizer procurement was scandalous. And money out, and the fertilizer was not the farmers. Akin did not bring any fight for that, because he's an economist, but because he knows what to do. So in all areas, being in infrastructure, if you the presidents don't work alone. The presidents work with cabinet ministers. The competent people, not appointing people just because you know them, your friends know them, or they belong to your political parties. Some of the people are appointed as ministers in my cabinet. Even when we were doing the voting, we were not even around.
You recalled them?
Portfolios. And that is how we succeeded in managing our economy. I brought in Ngozi, for example.
Wow.
So it was in Washington, so it was not there when we were voting.
Thank you.
But I know we needed such a person to manage the economy of Nigeria. Actually, was not even in the country, he was in Kenya. But I wanted him to come because he was the best I know that can manage the agriculture.
Well done, Mr. President.
Yes, we adopted technology, no doubt about that, because without science and technology, we cannot move anywhere.
So you've been
Currently.
redeemed. You know science. You were hiding
yes,
that you are
but
a
the
scientist.
first thing you need, even before the science and technology will work, is what I agree to some extent the political issue. The political willingness of the president to move the country forward.
Yep.
That commitment must be there.
Thank you.
And when the president has that commitment in any sector, now we are talking about agriculture, he will look for the best people to manage the system for him, and he will listen to them.
Yep.
So that is critical.
Thank you. So let me package that one. We went on a round where in the voting table we said it would be better to have a scientist for a head of state. And you've come in and said you've got small science, small, which we've never heard about. I'm glad you've pronounced it. But it's big, because that's the new agenda, biodiversity. But on top of that, the president has to bring or surround themselves with the right people. And your legacy is clear. Ngozi, 100%. Akin, 100%. Their legacy lives on. Thanks to you, who knew that you needed the best brains to use their knowledge to be game changers in the country. Congratulations on that. So, we don't have much time. You have passed your exam that you know the value of science. Because this is a science conference, we've got skeptics here who say these guys just want to stay in power and prolong their time. But you have given us a live example of you got in and said, can science come here where I am and guide me? So, question now is, can you educate my audience? You've all mentioned policy making as a game changer. What is policy making? Can you demystify it? We hired you, we voted you to be our policy, but we're in this problem and you're telling us policy can be a game changer. I just want crisp, clear definition of policy making. What were you doing when you were in power? In just 1 minute each, what is policy making and what big policy game changer did you put on the ground? I've got 5 minutes to end this panel. Please don't get me fired on the job. I'm asking you about something you lived, breathed, and worked on. Can you educate my audience? What is policy making and what is the big policy game changer that we need for a time such as now? Same order, over to you, Excellency Mayanki.
Oh, thank you, Lindiwe. We tend to think that policy making is a rational process. You know, you have objectives, you have means of implementation, monitoring and evaluation, feedback, etc. That's what is taught in business schools and public administration school. But policy making is not a rational process. It is part rational, but it is part negotiations, power relationships. And that's where the political priority comes in. For policy making to respond to the needs of a population in order to reduce vulnerability, to increase sovereignty, science in that case needs to be a political priority.
Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Excellency. Oh no, go to same order. Dr. Amina Girib Fakim, Excellency.
Policy of all policies, especially in Africa, is to provide for the youth, to make sure that the youth doesn't become a bane, but a boon. And through the youth we can build Africa, we can build Africa's food sovereignty. And through the youth we can make them more entrepreneur, so that they can become job creators and not just job seekers.
Excellent. Excellency Biavogu.
Yes. Policy must be contextualized, meaning that policy making must always be evidence-based and evidence evidence comes from science. And then it should be inclusive. You cannot bring a solution to someone without his participation in designing that solution. So, to be simple, policy making is to be bold in using evidence-based facts, science, and inclusiveness to bring solutions that people are waiting for.
Are you saying I should forget everything Gogo Mayembe, my grandmother, taught me?
I said inclusive. Therefore,
thank you.
is your response.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Excellency. Good luck, Jonathan.
Thank you. The issue of policy, you look at it from two ways. For a policy to be successful, there are two things to it. The policy itself must be a good one and must be the one that people will see the benefits associated with it. And there must be a total commitment from the leadership of that country, right from the president down, to make sure the policy succeeds. A number of policies that we make while in offices that are just in the files, and nobody really push it. Because we are talking about food systems, so I'll mention two in Nigeria. We had a policy of what we call the cassava bread. We wanted to reduce the wheat importation and substitute it with a percentage like 10 to 20% of cassava flour. We had another policy to make sure that young people embrace agriculture. Because like in Africa, most of our food are produced by the smallholders. And the smallholders farmers are very aged that live in the rural areas and so on. And that is not attractive to young people. How do we make sure young people embrace agriculture? And it's the young people that can adopt technology easily, not the old people. It's the young people that can use the smartphone, that can access information all over the world, that can use fertilizer or other inputs. So we have to encourage them. And we did that very well. I personally was involved in a number of meetings with the young people, not just my Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you. I'm stopping you there because you are on a good note, young people, and there is a lot of them here. Lots of tweetable tweets there. Policy making has to be rational, it's messy, it's not logical. I always call it, it's like sausage making. If you are an animal scientist and a farmer and a butcher like me, you never eat a sausage when you see when it's being made. That's how policies are. It's got to be contextualized, it's got to be evidence-based, informed by science. Those affected must participate in developing those policies. But most important, there must be commitment from the leadership to ensure implementation of the policies. However, for a time such as now, the billboard we want to leave as a panel of the wise is that it should provide for the youth, because it's the youth who should be empowered to be job creators, who will lead the technologies, take us from 40 kilograms of fertilizer to 150. But we, the over 60s, can't do it anymore. So, billboard, panel of the wise says, the youth are the future for your continent. Science must be at the forefront. We need leaders who respect science and use the innovations, create the conducive policy environment that promotes the uptake of these technologies, but follows through by providing finances for implementation, but review of the policies. Let me end by just thanking our panel of the wise and saying, they will be with us. You have the wisdom. Follow them through and hold them accountable. They're still very powerful. Thank you very much.
have another round of applause for the panelists, the Council of the Wise. And to Professor Lindiwe, very, very good moderation. Well done, Lindiwe. Our next panel is entitled Innovations and Partnerships. I'd like to call on stage Dr. Manuel Otero. He's the Director General of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture. I'd like to call upon Surita Sandosham.